Welcome back to SpaceLink Tv. We are looking at the connection between Mars and Egypt today, and to understand my point of view, I have to explain what I believe before we start. I'm Thomas Mikey Jensen. Let's start by going back in time. Thousands and thousands of years ago, an ancient civilization from another unknown universe or solar system sent a probe to our solar system, an all-seeing eye. That probe found our sun, found the planets in it, and started to fly by each one of them for the only purpose to scan them and measure them for their resources. How much air is there? Can you breathe there? Can you survive there? They found Mars. They went to Mars. Mars was habited thousands of years before Earth, and we have proof on it. We have satellite images still containing mysterious disc-shaped objects and giant constructions on the Martian surface. We have cities, city walls, huge areas, and then they came to Earth. They came to Earth to continue what they've done on Mars. They built spaceports. And this is what we are looking at. This is one of their spaceports in Egypt, the Giza Plateau. But before we are looking at more pictures from Mars, we have to look at Earth. We are looking at Saqqara in Egypt, the famous step pyramid. But it's not that pyramid I'm interested in today. It's another one, a much smaller one, that is laying opposite the Saqqara pyramid. We are looking at a complex at Saqqara, and here you can see the area that we're looking at today. This is a pyramid, and there's still an entrance underneath it, and it's still fully intact inside. I have paused the video here for a few seconds. Just look at it, because you're gonna see the same on Mars. We went to Egypt in 2022 and took a lot of good pictures of the complex in Saqqara. And as you zoom in on these two pictures, one from Mars on the left and one from Saqqara on the right, you can't help it. You start seeing that these are the same building blocks building up a structure, building up a room or a wall where there is something inside, a chamber or a hallway. These are the inner walls you can see on the outside of the pyramid. And if you look at the Saqqara pyramid, you can see all the dust, the sand, the rubble, the rocks that tumble down, laying in front of it, on top of it. There's no difference from what you see in the Mars images. Just have a look at it again as we are zooming out, because these two pictures are amazing. And you can see the inner wall on the Mars picture, and you can see the outer rocks, just like you can see it on the picture from Egypt, from Saqqara. And this is another great example of how it looks exactly like in Egypt as it does on Mars. On the left side, you see the Mars picture from Curiosity rover. On the right side, you see the pyramid from Egypt in Saqqara. Notice how you can see the inner wall and you can see the entrance. And on the right side of the entrance is smaller bricks. And outside them bricks are the big rocks that are smooth on the outside and creating the surface of the pyramid. This is how we built pyramid in Egypt, according to history, 4,500 years ago, approximately. So is that what we are looking at on Mars? I think it is. And again, you saw the building blocks on the picture, both from Saqqara on Mars and in this picture, on the Mars picture. When you zoom in, you can see the building blocks clearly again. They have made a good effort, try to blur it out a little bit so we don't see it. But what you're looking at on Mars is exactly the same as you're looking at from Egypt. The only difference is that whatever is on Mars has been there for 10 to 15,000 years longer before we even started building it on Earth. So you see, why is Mars looking so destroyed? I think there was a lot of things going up there. And I think when they left Mars, they came to Earth and they started over on Earth again. And they started with building spaceports like the Giza Plateau. Let's go to Mars and let's have a look at some pictures from Mars. The one we are looking at here is the so-called compound or pyramid, as I call it, that's covered in fallen rocks and debris. And this is what I'm saying. This gotta be 10, 15, maybe even 20, 30,000 years older than what we have on Earth. And that's why you only can partly recognize it again. But every time we look deeper, we find something new. We got an interesting area in that corner because this is where we saw them square blocks earlier. But this picture is taken from another angle, and we're gonna go back to the first gigapan again and have a look at it from another angle. But one of the things that stands out to me that tells me I've been right all the way through when I'm talking about a layer of plaster on the outside or thin walls that looks like massive rock. Have a look at this. This is proving my theory. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You think this is a big rock? Notice it's smooth on the outside. It's not like other rocks are. It's pretty smooth on the outside, and the same over here. It's covered by other rocks laying in front of it. But look inside it. It's not just the fact that there is an object in there, standing in there. It's the fact that it's hollow on the inside and you can see an object. To me, it looks like a vase or an urn or something like that. But it's amazing because this proves what I've been saying all the way through. These compounds are hollow. They are artificially created and they are made with rocks, sand, stone, and they carved it all out. They use plaster on the outside, just like we have concrete or mortar. And this is what you see here. The rock that's lying on top, I could imagine it fell from a height and simply crashed down on it and smashed it to pieces. And that's why you can see that it's hollow inside. And this is what I've been saying about plaster on the outside. All this is just only a thin layer of plaster, and we've seen it so many times. So this is one reason I believe that this is not just a normal mound. This is something that once was of 10, 15, 20,000 years ago, the same as we see in Egypt today that is estimated to be just 4,500 to 5,000 years old. And it makes sense when you see the state of the pyramids on Mars, as I call them from now on, because that is what it is. When you see the states of it, you see something that is such a bad state because it's been there 3-4 times as long as the one we saw in Saqqara. Another good little thing I want to show you. When you zoom in on the side, it's not perfectly square, and it don't need to be perfectly square to become a pyramid or to become a compound that can be useful. No, it don't. But another thing that really stands out, and I don't know if you can see it already now, but I am gonna take you closer. This rock standing here, look here. Somebody just carved out a square chunk of it. That doesn't happen in nature. Look at the background. The sun is coming from the back, so we are looking at some shadows here. But it also looks like a doorway, and what I'm thinking is this whole side here looks artificial. It looks like there are some grids on it, some marks on it, and it does look like there is a little stairway, 1 step, 2 step, 3 step, and you can't see the rest. And this is where you come in from. Here you see the steps, 1 step, 2 step, 3 step, and then there's some dark area here. Nature will probably say it's a shadow. I say it's not. And then you have that square block that's been taken out. That's not natural. And this is what I mean. This is the connection between Egypt and Mars. This is what we are looking at. We are looking at our ancestors' leftovers, the building they created before they left to Earth. Let's have a look at the other gigapan. We got the other gigapan up here, and this is what I showed you in the picture where I compared a pyramid at Saqqara and the image from Mars. You can see the stone blocks. You can see them. They're square. They're there. They are the inner wall, and you can see it's getting partly more and more covered over by plaster on this side. And this is what I showed you before, where you saw that vase standing inside. I call it a vase because I think that is what it is. Inside a room in the pyramid that you can actually see from the outside because it's so decayed that it's now have made a direct hole, shattered the plaster into pieces so you can look inside it. But this to me is the proof that this is an artificial constructed building. This is amazing, guys. There are so much more to it. You see the bigger rocks down here. I think that once was the sandstone that made the outer layer, the one that was smooth and created the structure of the outside of the pyramid. And I think because it was a soft stone, there ain't much left out of it. After being left out for 15,000 years, I understand why it looks like that. Wind, water, rocks tumbling down from above constantly. There was life on Mars, and I think that these images prove that there are still civilizations. I have been talking about building blocks. Here you can see them again, and you can see them clear. You can see the line in between the blocks. They are 100% square, all of them with 90-degree angles. It's what's on the outside that is covered with further one more layer that is just random rocks, because the middle layer would not be seen by anybody. That's why you see so many random rocks, and then you see sometimes the inner walls like you do it here. This is a compound. There are somebody who either was living there or had a temple there or had something there for sure. And I think that we are looking at an ancient construction on Mars. And I want to take you down this road here, because there's a lot of interesting thing to see here. There's so much more to come. There's something that looks like a bended pipe here, that or a water hose or something flexible, but it's not a piece of rock. What is that, guys? Can anybody explain that? This is what I'm saying. We are finding the connection between Mars and Egypt, and I see the connection in the building blocks, like you can see it up here again. The back wall, the inner wall, there is a chamber behind this wall, then covered over with a lot of loose rocks. Then you got the big rocks outside, and outside the big rock, you create your smooth pyramid surface that give the pyramids its structure outside. But it is amazing. And again, here's another good example. Because have a look at this area before I take you back to Saqqara, because I uploaded a gigapan from Saqqara for the only purpose for people to look at it and prepare themselves for what to find on Mars. It's on my gigapan profile. I'll leave a link to it in the video description. But look how these rocks are placed here, and you think it's just random, because these are not perfectly carved rock. And this is what I said before. You got the inner wall, then you got the middle layer. And the middle layer is the one that makes sure that if there happens anything to the outer layer, that the inner wall will still be standing. It's kind of nuclear proof, and this theory has to be proven because these compounds are still standing. And you can see there is a square hole over here, and it all looks a little bit odd, don't it? But have a look at it, have a good look at it, because we're gonna go back to Saqqara again in a second. Another little thing I want to show you before we go back to Saqqara is this rock here. Notice in the middle of it, would you ever think a rock would crack like that? Don't think that. I don't think so. And there is something round on top of it that doesn't look very, very natural, to be honest. But these two here, what is that and how is that happened in the middle of the rock? I don't believe in natural creation with this one. And I want to take you back to Saqqara, but I want to zoom out again first, because the size is important. Because the pyramid we're going to look at now from Saqqara is exactly the same size, about 40 meters in each direction, just like this one on Mars is. We are back at Saqqara, at one of the pyramids at the big complex. Remember I said before, look at them rocks that are lined up. If you look at the video from Saqqara, you can see that some of the outer layer is no longer perfect. It's been disturbed by time and weather, and probably a few curious hands as well. And that's exactly the same we're looking at on Mars. The difference is that the pyramids at Saqqara are only 4,500 years old. So they haven't got to that state yet where they look like there has been a nuclear bomb over the area, to say the mildest at least. Look at all the piled up dust and rocks. This is exactly the same we see on Mars. Look at the bottom rocks that creates the surface with the slant arm. This is what we see here and there on the pictures I just showed you. But I want to show you two other pyramids that we also filmed in Egypt. And this was filmed from our hotel room. And we are not at Giza, we are not at Saqqara, we are at Abu Sir, just outside Cairo. And these pyramids are still being dug out. They are still under investigation. They are still doing their research there, and they are still taking things out. Just while we were there, we saw people come in there. We saw military people coming in there. There is a military base just around the corner, and we saw them come out with things. We saw them coming out with boxes. They were emptying it. The one you're looking at here is I would say even worse condition than the one we've seen on Mars. Just to compare it, Mars versus Egypt. What do you think? And that is my contribution to connect the dots, to find out the connection between Mars and Egypt. And I, of course, believe that I'm right when I say there was a civilization up there. Now guys, what do you guys think we have up there? Thank you for watching. Until we see us again, take care. Bye.